Look at that. Katrina looking all G. Look you looking all professional and everything.
Right.
You
never know.
Are you back in Washington or you in Cali?
Yep, I came in last night. I was
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. I saw that you were turning in business and everything. I like that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hello, Marquita. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Are you living? Right? Let me live. Are you living?
I'm letting Derek live. Yes.
There we go. I like it. I like it. I like it. Jennifer. Hello there, Jen. Hi, hi, and hi.
Hello.
Hi. Everybody, hello, hello. What is this? What is this being sent to me?
Let me just,
Very nice. I like that. Sorry. I got Hope Alliance coming in as well too right now. Okay, good. So let me talk to you about the history of this, because we're going to use this recording to send to future participants. And so we're going to use this as a good tool to kind of explain how it works. What exactly is ClientBuilder? So there's an individual in the industry by the name of Al Granum. Okay, his name is Al Granum. He's no longer with us. He passed away probably about a decade ago, and maybe less. But Al Granum was a Northwestern Mutual giant. If you guys know that I came from Northwestern Mutual. Northwestern is known for having one of the best training platforms that this industry's ever seen. And I'm not going to lie, I pay a lot of tribute to the ability to learn these products, but more importantly, how I educate, the method that I educate on these products to Northwestern Mutual, 100%. Al Granum did a 20-year research study, 20 years of a study on the top 10 agents in the industry, top 10, okay? And what he wanted to do out of that study is he really just wanted to see what were the patterns, what were the habits that these guys did in order to be successful. We're not talking about building or recruiting. We're not talking about being the best builder. We're talking about being the best producers. The best producers. What were the activities that they did? What were the techniques that they did in order to find the success that they did? Al Granum became a freaking revolutionary genius in the industry. He built a system called the OCS system, the one card system. If you guys ever seen an old school shoebox, so it's like a shoebox with almost like a clip, and you put business cards in there, not business cards, you put index cards in there. And you ever seen that, Marquita? Yeah? Okay. That was his system. It was basically his own CRM system for follow-up. A lot of the training that I give you guys on annual reviews, birthday reviews and everything, this little book here that I talk about 100% came from this OCS system, the one card system. But then on top of that, he built a class called ClientBuilder. And ClientBuilder is a class that you have once a week. Mine was every Monday at 7:30 in the morning, face to face. And in that meeting, it was like an Excel spreadsheet type meeting. And we're in that meeting, we're not talking about cases. We're not talking about, teach me about this product. We're not talking about, teach me objection handling. What should I say? What shouldn't I say? That's more like sidebar one-on-one type meetings. ClientBuilder was a very analytical meeting, meaning how many calls did you make? How many people answered the call? How many appointments did you schedule? Out of the appointments that you scheduled, how many of them kept? Out of the appointments that kept, how many times did you ask for referrals? How many of them did you take a full fact finder? How many of them did you open up a case? How many did you close? All the analytics of a business. If you think about a Fortune 500 company, the one thing that they like to do every quarter is they have a board of review meeting and they look at the analytics of the business. How much gross revenue, how much gross sales, how much, everything. They look at all, and all the numbers correlate to one another. Everything correlates to one another. And so my ClientBuilder was a meeting like that. I used to have to send my report the night before to the broker that I was working out of. And when I sat in this meeting, it's a big old TV in front of us, and boom, they put your numbers up, and everybody can see your numbers. Everybody could see how many days did you work this week? How many appointments did you make? You could see everything. And what's crazy is in the beginning, you start to question it. Like, what is this all about? But little by little, as you start to develop 1 week's worth of numbers, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, you start to see a pattern. And someone who really understands how to read that graph can tell you where you're strong, can tell you where you're weak and what you need to adjust. And you could read these graphs. You could read these graphs from left to right and up to down. I mean, so much so that, I mean, I'm talking about full transparency, cash flow, full transparency. And it wasn't to judge, it wasn't for the peer pressure, although peer pressure does tend to happen, I'm not gonna lie. But what it does, it allows you to figure out where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses. I'll tell you what was one of mine. And I didn't know it until, you know, I was able to see it on a graph. If I didn't see it on a graph, I would have denied it. I would be like, no, you're lying, there's no way. Because no one ever likes to look at themselves in the mirror and admit to this, right? Lazy habits. That was something that just, no one likes to admit to it. I'll be the first one to tell you. You tell me I'm lazy, like I get offended. I'm not lazy. And it wasn't that I was necessarily being lazy. I just wasn't doing money-making activity. And this is a pattern that my coach was able to see in me. He saw that whenever I made a $10,000 commission in 1 week, the very next 2 weeks, my activity dropped dramatically. Why? Because I made money, because I got money in the bank. I'm going out to dinner, I'm paying the bills, I'm sleeping in a little bit later, I'm not making as many calls, I'm not asking for referrals every time. It's just my level of intensity and activity would drop. And then he said to me, your level of activity doubles on the 3rd week. Now he's just telling me this on the phone call. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're lying, right? Until I came to ClientBuilder. And he looked at 3 months worth of my business and listened like clockwork, 10K, next 2 weeks, I was lazy as hell. And then by the 3rd week, I was double downing. Why am I double downing on the 3rd week? Because now I'm desperate. Because I've gone to 2 weeks of no production, no business, lazy habits. The 10K is already gone. Now I'm like dying. And so I wrote a business that was like a roller coaster. And I wouldn't have believed it if someone did, if it wasn't for the fact that it was there in writing. It was there 100%, because numbers don't lie. 1 + 1 is 2. It'll never be 3. Numbers don't lie. And so I attribute a lot of my success to my client builder meetings that I used to have. Now, I had this every week, every Monday at 7:30 in the morning with my local broker. And then once a month, I would drive 2 hours to the other coast of Florida to go meet with the national coach. I'm sorry, not the national, the regional coach that would look at only 1 or 2 people from select offices. And so once a week, it was my entire, people in my office that participated. But then once a month, it was the top producers, the top performers that would then collaborate and measure themselves up to other offices. And then guess what would happen? Once every 6 months, I would fly out once every 6 months to home office. And this is if I was at that level, right? If I was one of the top in the region, I would then fly out once every 6 months and I would look at my numbers and compare it on a company level to other regional leaders. I mean, it was intense. This was like, when you talk about a microscope being on your business, that's exactly what we're talking about. It got to the point where they would track what time you'd have to track what time you came into the office, because they learned that there was patterns within that as well. And so I attribute a lot of my success to that, because that is 100% in the world of small business ownership. You know, it's a lot of for the minute, by the minute type decisions. But when you get to step back and you look at the analytics, that's when you really get to say, okay, wait a minute, am I really running this as effective and as efficient as I should be? Am I really running it like a business, or am I casual about this? Am I making casual money or am I making real money? No lie, I would hit 6 figures as a casual business owner. Just out of raw talent. That's just raw, natural talent, I could hit 6 figures. But make 200K, you gotta be intentional. You gotta be very intentional if you wanna make 200K. You wanna make $500,000, you better be ultra intentional. Like, you've got to know your craft, you gotta know your business, you gotta know your strengths, you gotta know your weaknesses, and you gotta be willing to improve. You've gotta be willing to improve. So ClientBuilder is what I attribute it to. And so I'm hosting ClientBuilder, a couple rules to ClientBuilder I want you to understand, because this is a very intense meeting. We have to maximize. Couple rules. Number 1, you have to be on time. You have to be on time. You're 1 minute late, I'm gonna charge you $50. There's no better way than keep the standards high than to hit your pocketbook. Okay, you're 1 minute late, I charge you $50. Rule number 2, you gotta be on camera. You got to be on camera. Why do you have to be on camera? It's because there's communication you give with your body language. There's communication you give with your facial expressions, whether you're really listening, whether you're annoyed, whether you're not annoyed, whether there's a hot button, there's a trigger. Maybe there's certain things that we'll talk about that trigger an emotional reaction and it shows in your face. We need to dig deep on that. We need to figure out what gets you going. But that's number 2. You have to be on camera. Number 3, you got to be stationary. You can't be, oh, I'm on camera while I'm driving. That's not what this is about. I'm hosting these meetings 100% to help you get to the next level, not because I have to, but 100% because I want to. And this is an invite only type of thing. This is 100% an invite only. So if you got the invitations, because at some point or another, you exerted some type of characteristics that tell me there's a lot of potential in you. It just needs to be sharpened, honed in on, and really maximized. And I'm not going to tell you I'm the best in this industry, but I do have something to offer. And a lot of what I have to offer is just my own experiences that have helped me get to the next level. Okay. Now, here's another thing about this meeting. You're not going to talk every single time. There's 7 of you. I'm giving an hour and a half. This is going to run from 2 o'clock Eastern time to 3:30 once a week. Adjust that time zone to your time. I'm only going to talk to the ones that are performing. But it's still expected that everybody attend, because if you're not one of the people that I'm looking at your numbers, it doesn't mean you can't learn something from other people's businesses. I might take somebody who's very effective at getting referrals and match you up to work with someone who's not good at getting referrals. But the only way you're going to know it is by seeing the numbers, because 100% the numbers tell the story. Now, you could put fake numbers if you want. You're only hurting yourself. I'm not going to quality control. Here's what I can tell you. Eventually, the fake numbers do expose themselves, because you can only go so many weeks of having 500 calls, 25 meetings, 10 open cases without finally having something that you turned in. And eventually the numbers expose themselves. So my advice is, be honest with your numbers. If it's a 0, put the 0 down and get uncomfortable with it. Because yes, there is a level of peer pressure here. You're going to be competing against your peers to see who really has the desire to want to win. A lot of people talk like they want to win, but they don't put in the effort that they want to win. They don't put in the actions that they want to win, right? And then here's the other piece of the puzzle. Business doesn't care what's happening to you personally. It doesn't care. You could say all day long, I'm not winning right now because I'm taking care of this, or I'm dealing with this, or I'm dealing with this with baby daddy, or this with baby mama, or this with my kids, or this with my family. Business doesn't care. There doesn't exist a department in the government, that Small Business Grievance Act. That doesn't exist, where you could file a complaint and the government give you a freebie and here's a little bit of extra money because as a business owner, you're dealing with stuff. No, a business owner has to find a solution. Unfortunately, ClientBuilder is the exact same way. So either you have the numbers or you don't have the numbers. If you get an opportunity to talk, I need to hear what's going on in your business from an analytical standpoint. I don't want, and I'm not saying that I don't care, so please don't take it that way, because if you want to chop it up and you want to process an issue, let's set up a time outside of this ClientBuilder meeting to really talk about what's going on in your personal life that I could possibly help you with or not. So please don't take it like I don't care, but during ClientBuilder, I don't have the time to listen to what's going on in your personal life. I don't have time to hear, I'm dealing with this client, but this is what the client said. I don't know how to respond. I need to know the numbers. I need to know the analytics, the numbers. If you do this, I promise you, you're going to improve. I don't know how much you're going to improve by, right? Some people improve really quickly. Some people adapt and adjust quickly. Some people take a little bit of time to do it because, let's just face it, some people struggle with change. Some people just struggle with change. And unfortunately, you tend to be your own enemy when you refuse change. Just like I said, during this pandemic, there's going to be 3 types of people. One person is the person that fights against the grain, doesn't want the change, doesn't want the quarantine, doesn't want social distancing, doesn't want to virtual business. They fight it, they refuse to adapt. Those people have struggled the most these last 2 years. They want everything to go back in a world where it's not going to go back. They struggled the most. The second type of person is the one that says, I'm going to change a little bit, just enough to get by, in hopes that things come back to the way they were. And so they're kind of there, they're doing things out of their ordinary, just enough to get by, just enough to pay the bills and have $5 in your bank account. And then there's the third type of person that says, I have to change, and the faster I do it, the faster I'm going to succeed. I have to change the way my habits are. I have to change what the new norm is. You know what I'm saying? Guys, I came from a world where I used to drive 40,000 miles a year on my cars, meeting people belly to belly, to now running 100% virtual. 100% virtual. You think it wasn't uncomfortable? 100% it was uncomfortable. But I knew that the faster I adapted to it, the faster I was going to progress. And the more I fought it, the more I was going to struggle. The more I was going to trouble. The more I was going to struggle. And you know what's crazy? There was a time where I missed the field. I don't miss it anymore. Now I love the fact that I run everything virtual because I get to spend more time with my kids. I get to have more meetings than I ever could before because I don't have to worry about that drive time. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. And so I say that to you because one of the biggest things that's going to cause you to struggle is your inability to change your habits in your business. When I tell you, you need to up your numbers from 30 dials to 35 dials, you might look at that 5 number and go, wow, that's nothing. Maybe I'll hit it, maybe I won't. But 5 times 6 is 30 extra dials a week. That's an extra 120 dials a month. Guys, this report, if you do a full year, by the time you're done, you'll be able to calculate how much money you make per phone call. Per phone call. Because all the numbers tell a story. And everybody's story is going to be different. For example, somebody might say to me, hey, Tony, I'm making $40 a day, right? I'm making $40 a day. 30 people answered, but I only scheduled 3 meetings. My coaching to that person isn't about getting people on the phone. My coaching to that person is, I don't know what you're saying, but if you're getting 30 people to say yes and only 3 of them are willing to meet with you, we need to work on your language when you get on the phone. You need to work on your language when you get on the phone because that's way too many people that say hello for a return of only 3 people. That's 10%. That number doesn't correlate. That should be a 50-50 number. The next person might say to me, Tony, I'm making 40 dials. Only 5 people are answering and 3 people are scheduling. Notice the results are still the same. But now my language to that person is, listen, it's not your language because if 5 people answer and 3 people say yes, that's a pretty good ratio. We need to figure out what's going on with your business that only 5 people answer after 40 calls. Maybe it's the time of day that you're calling. Maybe it's an old list you need to get rid of. Maybe it's the market that you're coming after. There's something going on that out of 40 calls, 5 people answer. You see how it's a totally different type of coaching for the same result. I only know that if you expose your numbers. I only know that if you expose your numbers. So that's what ClientBuilder is about. We tried this last quarter, and I'm not going to lie, I'll be 100% honest with you. And I think that it's not insulting, but it's truth. That's the thing about ClientBuilder. It's just raw. I think last quarter people didn't take it as serious as they should have. To be honest, I think last quarter there was way too much casualness about it. So I'm hoping this quarter proves me wrong. I'm hoping this quarter, everybody here, some of my past recipients and my current recipients, my new recipients, look at this and say, this is the holy grail of the insurance industry because I now get to break this down from the business side and really figure out what to do to improve. That's my hope. That's my hope. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share the ClientBuilder and we're going to go over the report so you can kind of see what it looks like. And then from there, I'm going to open it up for any kind of Q&A that you might have and go from there. Now, everybody has access to this. You should all have access to it on your Google Sheet. It's called Monday Business Builder Full-Timers. What you're going to notice is, let me share the screen here. There we go. There we go. What you're going to notice is this. Everybody has a tab. There's Marquita, there's Rob, there's Cinnamon, there's Cedric, there's Katrina, there's Gigi, there's Lucia. Actually, Lucia opted out. There's Takira, there's Jennifer. You're even going to be able to see some of the past recipients' numbers. We're talking full disclosure here. Full numbers exposed to everybody, good and bad and indifferent. The numbers are there, right? You cannot modify anybody's numbers. You cannot modify anybody's numbers. You can only go into yours and type in your numbers. Let's go over what these actually mean, okay? You'll see that there's a piece down in the bottom and there's a piece at the top. So let me zoom in here real quick to go over what each column essentially represents. So over here, every one of these, I think we call these columns, right? Or rows. Every one of these rows represents 1 week. So for example, if you're on line number 6, right? And it's asking you Monday, the week of. What I'm looking for, if we had Client Builder today, is last week's numbers. I would need to know from the, let me see here, from July 11th until July 17th. So right here, you know what you would write? You would write July 11th. This is the week of July 11th. How many days did you work? 7 days in a week. How many did you work? Did you work 5? Did you work 4? Did you work 3? Did you work 6? Right? How many days did you work? What I consider a day worked, just so you all know. Like for example, sometimes like on a Sunday, you might have one meeting here, a little extra meeting. That's not an extra day worked. A day worked would mean that you either made a full 40 phone calls, 40 dials, you had 3 appointments on your schedule, or you kept 2. That's what you consider a full day worked. You made 40 calls, you had 3 appointments on your schedule, and these are all ors. So either you made 40 calls, or you had 3 appointments scheduled, or you kept 2 meetings. That's considered a full day work. But I need to know how many days you worked. Sometimes people will tell me, oh, I don't understand, I'm not making money. And then I look, I'm like, bro, you're working 2 days a week. I can't do nothing with that. Until you clock in more, this business ain't gonna happen for you. I need to know how many days you work. If you're in the lead business, I need to know how much money you're spending on leads. If you're in the lead business, I need to know how much you're spending on leads. That's what this column is. I need to know how many you purchased. Because if you say to me, I spent $200 on leads and you got 200 leads, I know you're buying dollar leads. There's a different level of work activity when you're buying dollar leads versus buying $30 leads. That's why I need to know that number. Right here, total field training meetings you asked for referrals. I need to know how many times you're asking for referrals. Because if you're keeping 10 appointments but only asking 2 times, there's a leak. There's 8 opportunities there where you could have asked for referrals. If you're asking all 10 times but only getting 2 referrals, I need to work on your language. There's something wrong with your language. I need to figure that out. How many referrals did you actually obtain from the amount of times that you asked? How many prospects did you obtain? That's social media, guys. I'm huge. Look, I put 3 in the system in the last 36 hours, just so you guys know. I just recruited my 3rd. All 3 of them licensed. You know how? Social media. Social media. You guys saw a couple of days ago, I took a screenshot of 4 people that replied to a post that I put. 3 of the 4 have already been recruited. 3 of the 4, right? That's your prospecting. How much prospects you get? Total leads from new agent top 25. If you're a builder, are your downlines giving you top 25 warm lists? How many of them? 25 numbers, 50 numbers? Because believe it or not, your downline is a part of your business. If you're overriding them, they're a part of your business. So you need to count that. How many friend requests? If you're running a social media business, how many friend requests are you doing weekly? How many direct messages did you send out? How many people replied? 1, 2, 3. Social media appointments. How many scheduled appointments did you get from social media? I need to know what's the return on this activity that you're putting in. That's important. From a call standpoint, how many dials? How many reached? How many field appointments did you schedule? How many BOM invites did you schedule? We haven't been doing BOM. So this, I'm okay if that stays at 0. We haven't been doing business opportunity meetings. For those of you that don't know what a BOM is, that's a group overview, a group recruiting interview where I would tell everybody to just invite a bunch of people and I would do a presentation of who we are, you know, what we do and what's in it for them, kind of a presentation. We haven't needed to do that any longer. But I do need to know how many field appointments did you schedule? How many? Right? And here's what's cool about it. Dials just means the phone rang. You called, made an attempt. That's a controllable action. You can control how many times this phone rings. Outbound. You can't control how many inbound, but you can control outbound. How many times people answered? And how many appointments did you schedule? That's important. Now, out of your dialing activity and out of your social media activity, come your what? The results. Right? So how many recruiting interviews did you host? How many BOMs, how many people attended your BOM? Again, we're not doing BOMs right now, so you can zero that out. That's fine. How many orientations did you have with brand new agents? Because if you recruited them, the next step is an orientation meeting with them once they've done contracting. Right? If you're buying leads, you might run a door knocking business. How many doors did you knock on? How many people answered? Right? How many last minute meetings did you have? Those are important because none of these have anything to do with your dialing activity. They have everything to do with your go out and knock on doors. This is for lead gen business, lead generation type businesses. How many fact finding meetings did you have? Out of those fact finding meetings, how many turned into an open case? Meaning You did a fact finder, you did a dime analysis, you did a budget. They acknowledge that they need insurance. You acknowledge that they need insurance. This is not just about you acknowledging they need insurance. This is about them acknowledging, yes, I need it. Sometimes a fact finder doesn't turn into an open case. I need to know what the ratio is of that. And how many times did you do a product presentation to close business? I need to know that. It doesn't mean you collected a check. I just need to know how many times you presented the product, an actual illustration, and you're trying to get the person to say, I want to apply. I need to know what that is. I need to know what that number is. Then you got MMA. MMA hours. You know what MMA stands for? Money making activity. What type of activity did you do that generates business? There's a key right down here. Every 25 calls is 1 hour's worth of MMA. Every 5 referrals you obtain is 1 hour worth of MMA. Every actual meeting you have, whether it's a fact finder or a closing meeting or an orientation for a new agent, is an hour and a half's worth of work. You know what's not money making activity? Submitting applications, underwriting, replying to emails. You might think, oh, what do you mean? I'm trying to get my business. That's admin. Those are the types of things you need to be doing after hours. You don't do that during what's called golden hours. Golden hours is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's money making activity. Before 9 a.m., that's when I'm replying to emails. That's when I'm processing business. After 9 p.m., that's when I'm submitting applications. That's when my day is done. I got a glass of wine in my hand, I got a beer in my hand, and that's when I'm doing all the administrative stuff that doesn't pay me revenue. That's the difference between working on your business and working in your business. On your business, golden hours. On, you're adding. In your business, you're just working the business that you already processed. That's administrative work. Okay? So I need to know what your MMA hours are. If you want to know what I'm going to use to determine if you're going to speak during Client Builder, it's your MMA hours. 100% your MMA hours. We're going to start off slow. We're going to start off at 10 hours. 10 hours plus, you're going to talk. We're going to look at your Client Builder. We're going to break it down. You're going to give me your 2 minutes of what happened in your day. If you don't have 10 hours, you're not going to talk. You're going to listen. You're going to take notes. You're going to try to find a way to get yourself to 10 hours. And as we get more and more people qualified, what am I going to do? I'm going to up the hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, 25 hours. A full-time person should be putting in 30 hours. Then we got what? Results. New business appointment. How many new business partners did you directly recruit? How many insurance applications did you take? How many credit applications did you take? How much annual premium did you collect? What was your cash flow? Direct deposits in your bank account. And how many appointments did you schedule for next week? Because there's one thing that I learned. I didn't want to be unemployed when the weekend came. Think about that. You're unemployed every minute of the day. You don't have a client to see, a phone call to make. You're unemployed. That's what it is to be an entrepreneur. You're unemployed every minute, every hour of the day. You don't have someone to call, someone to see. So how employed are you when Friday or Saturday comes? I'll tell you right now, I run a practice Monday through Saturday. Why? Because I've put in enough 7 day a week weeks that I don't have to now work on Sundays. But I earned that time. That doesn't mean all of you guys should be doing it. Some of y'all need to be working 7 days a week for a straight month to get yourself to that next level. But whatever it is you call the end of your week, okay, whatever it is you call your end of the week, when you finish and you clock out and you look at your calendar for the following week, are you employed? Are you employed that week? Do you have appointments? That's why this is important. How many appointments did you set for next week? How many? I'm constantly making sure I'm scheduling follow-up meetings. If you think about it, I worked a couple meetings with Cinnamon. We have follow-up appointments scheduled to go. I worked a couple of meetings with Katrina. We have follow-up appointments up and ready to go. I'm always, what's the next meeting? What's the next meeting? Until that person says, hey, I'm signing on the dotted line, there's not gonna not be a follow-up. I need to know what that is. There it is. Now you see credit applications here. I'm gonna modify this as well. I'm gonna add in e-commerce. I'm gonna add e-commerce meetings. And I'm also gonna add in health insurance meetings. Because right now, health insurance does generate the opportunity to cross-sell into life. Honestly, that's why credit is here. That's why health insurance is here. That's why e-commerce is here. It's to cross-sell into the life space. Because life and annuity is the biggest income generator of anything we have on our platform. But sometimes people just need their credit repaired. Sometimes people just need, an e-commerce conversation. Sometimes people just need a health insurance policy. Are you trying to cross-sell during those opportunities as well? So that's what this is all about. Every one of these represents 1 week. So 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This doesn't start to get real sexy until you're about 6, 7 weeks in. That's when I can look at this and go, look at your pattern, look at your business, look what you're doing. This is happening to you, this is happening to you, this is happening to you. So I'm going to open it up for questions in case anybody has any. Speak now, because the idea is to make sure next week we're ready to run.
Tony, this is Cedric.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I had a couple questions. The first one was about dials. So
Mhm.
dials basically is the phone calls, and I do a lot of social media. So does that include reaching out to individuals on social media or just straight phone calls?
Well, if you notice, there's a section there for social media. So, how many direct messages did you send out on social media? How many people
Mhm.
replied? So you're not going to double dip. You're not going to add that to here to your call activity. And who knows, maybe you're the guy that runs an entire business off of social media conversations. I know plenty of businesses that do that. For
Got it.
example, I do both. So I don't track, I just recruited 3 people from social media. Everything that I did in communication with them was on my DM until I finally met them for the first time on Zoom. So I'm not going to track calling activity for that. I'm going to track social media activity for that.
Got it.
Okay.
I had 3. So
Mm-hmm.
the BOM, I was looking at getting myself jump started. I'm out my lazy but hurt transition phase. So I'm looking at although you said there's no BOM, I'm looking at here in Elgin, Illinois, actually having I found a location to have an office. I'm just gonna go there every Monday and invite people there. Is it okay to have my own version of the BOM?
Of course, you are your own business partner. You're your own business owner. You could run your own BOMs for your entire agency. You could do one for yourself. You could leverage me if you want me to help. It's up to you, 100%.
Got it. And my last question, and this we can maybe hold it to the end. I was just curious about because I was looking at your calendar and was I was trying to understand it for myself and I'm trying to develop my own personal calendar and now seeing the requirements and the activities to be successful. How do you how's your day set up? And it's because I want to do my best to duplicate it, to
Yeah.
understand where how I can be successful given my own personal schedule.
So my calendar right now, it's not going to be effective for you all because, again, I still run the company. So, for example, you'll never see my availability on Tuesday open or on Thursday morning, all day Tuesday and Thursday morning, because those are the time slots that I'm blocking off for commissions and payroll and stuff like that. Monday is filled with a bunch of administrative meetings. I have my VP meeting, I have this client builder meeting, I have my administrative meeting. So my calendar today wouldn't be good for you. What I would tell you is this: as a field agent, there's 2 types of calendars you run. There's a lead gen calendar and there's a warm referral calendar. So you have to figure out which one you want to be. If you're a lead generating person, meaning you're buying leads and making sales, your calendar needs to be every Monday and every Thursday are dial days. Every Monday and every Thursday are solely for dials. Outside of any leadership meetings that you have and stuff like that, it's just dials. So you've got to be religious on Mondays and Thursdays about not having any client meetings. And the reason you're doing it that way is because on Monday you're dialing, and everything you schedule on Monday is for Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are days for the field. Everything you do on Monday is for Tuesday, Wednesday on the field. On Thursdays is another dial day. And everything you're dialing on Thursday is for Friday, Saturday on the field. So you're dialing for the next 2 days. Because when you work in a lead gen business, you have to understand something. That person you called is going to get calls from 5 to 10 other agents. Question is, who's going to get to them first? So if you're scheduling meetings a week out in a lead gen business, you're already shooting yourself in the foot. There's somebody else that's going to get to them first. So you're dialing on Monday for Tuesday, Wednesday, you're dialing on Thursday for Friday, Saturday. And then on Sunday, you're just, you're taking a half a day to do administrative processing, catch up, follow up, stuff like that. Okay.
I'd
Now,
like to throw a 2 cent in.
yeah, go ahead.
I've learned that you guys use the language practice company. So I did come from my practice company and I was a field trainer in that practice company. So a lot of like number systems and stuff like that, if you guys have questions on, I can help with some of that. I'm not, like, hey, this is going on, but we did a lot of number looking, data collectings and strategizing when it came to that as a field trainer. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, I guess, because on lead generation and in warm market.
Yeah.
We can work
Well, that's
together.
good stuff. I can tell you this, in the short period of time that I've worked with Katrina, she's very structured. She definitely thinks scalability. She's got some pretty cool ideas with Zoom that I need to pick her brain on doing some of these things. So definitely, and everybody here is going to have different skill sets in different areas. So this is where you want to work together and collaborate together. But 100%. The Cedric for, let me see here, 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah, utilizing each other would be great because we have a team amongst our own selves. Tony is just way too busy. Let him do his thing and we can cross train or do whatever, pick each other's brains. I want to know where you guys' strengths are at, weaknesses. Me too. I have the, strengths and weaknesses. I don't like to bounce off of each other.
For sure.
Most definitely.
Cedric, to run a referral business, this is the one that I came from. This is the one that I know very well, how to run a referral business. Number one, your day starts at 7:30. And your day is going to go until about 8 o'clock at night. Okay. What I used to do from 7:30 until 9 o'clock. Well, it was 7:30 to 8:30. It was my prepping and planning. Okay. What I mean by prepping and planning is I'm looking at my calendar, I'm prepping, making sure I have my illustrations for my presentations, making sure that I have my call list with me, making sure that I have basically my day planned out, right? That was 7:30 to 8:30. From 8:30 until 10 was my dials. Every single morning from 8:30 to 10 was the golden hours, as some people call it, right? That's when you're dialing for dollars. When you work a referral business, you got to dial every day a little bit. So from 8:30 to 10 was my dial day, my dial time. Then my appointments on the field was, and notice how it's like religious, like I still have it ingrained in my head. It was 10:30, 12, 1:30, 3, 4:30. 10:30, 12, 1:30, 3, 4:30. Last one would be 6 o'clock. I gave an hour for a meeting, a half hour for drive time. 1 hour meeting, not drive time, an extra, a half hour in between in case my meeting was running late, or if I needed to, if one of my meetings was taking a little bit longer. But as long as I controlled it that way, I had the ability to fit the most amount in my calendar. I never let my clients tell me what time they wanted to meet. I gave them options, but the options had to fit within my calendar. So I repeat it to you again. It was 10:30, 12, 1:30, 3, 4:30, and 6. And if you look at those time slots, it's an hour for the meeting, a half hour extra in between. And that's how I ran my calendar. Now, at the end of the day, I used to have what's called posting and planning. This was a meeting with myself, posting and planning. And what I would do with my posting and planning is I would update this report. So posting and planning to me meant, I'm going to take a half hour and I'm going to look at my day. How many calls did I make? How many appointments did I schedule? How many appointments did I have? How many cases did I open? Everything. Now, what you want to do with this sheet, let me show you what I mean by this sheet, what you want to do. This sheet right here, file, I'm going to show you what I did. See how I could print it? And so what I did is I printed it out, and every one of these little columns represents one day on the printout. So I'm handwriting it in. So this is Monday, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday, this is Thursday, this is Friday, this is Saturday, this is Sunday. And I would just, at the end of the day, when I was posting and planning, I would fill in the numbers. And then what do you think I did on Sundays? I would add them all up. I'd go to the digital one on Google Sheet. I'd put in my week's numbers and I'd give that and send that to my mentor so that Monday morning I was ready for my client builder. That's how I would do it. Now, the second page here, this is my mileage log. And this is my dial log. And so every box represents a dial when I'm dialing for dollars, right? So if I was making a phone call, I would put a dot in the box. If the phone call picked up, I turned the box into a check mark. If I scheduled the meeting, I would circle the check mark. And everything that I just am explaining to you, look, I even wrote it in there. The instructions are there. So at the end of the week, I could look at all of these dials and I could go, okay, every dot represents every box that has something in it represents a dial. Every check mark represents somebody that answered, and every circle check mark represents an appointment that I scheduled. And so I would use this to track my dialing activity. And then down here, when I was on the road, I tracked my mileage log. This was my mileage log. And so if I used one of these every single week, at the end of the year, I had 52 of these sheets. There's my mileage log from my tax accountant, right? There's my dial activity. Everything essentially was there. Everything was there. And so I would have a half an hour at the end of the day for posting and planning where all I would do is update these numbers. I'm going to tell everybody here right now, if you're planning on updating this report once a week on Sunday night, you're not going to capture everything. You're going to be missing out on a lot of details that's important for your business. But if you do it at the end of the day, every half hour, at the end of the day for a half hour to yourself, boom. Now, you know what I did after posting and planning? After I had dinner, after I took care of the kids, after I put them to sleep, after everybody's down, that's when I would reply to underwriters' emails. That's when I would submit applications. That's when I would case design my illustrations for the next day. That's when I would do all of that stuff because I needed to make sure from 8 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, my golden hours, I was either making a phone call to see a client, I was in a meeting with a client, or I was getting referrals so that I could make a phone call to see a client. But those are the three things that I'm doing during the day. I'm not doing illustrations. I'm not doing underwriting. I'm not doing applications. I'm not doing illustrations. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And none of that stuff because I have to maximize the time that I have with the clients. And I ran that schedule 6 days a week when I first got started. 7 days a week, to be honest with you. I probably ran 7 days a week meetings for the first 5 years of my career. And it's not that I didn't take an occasional day off. I just became very strategic with it. Let me give everybody some advice on some of like how I operate summers right now, right? If you're a single parent, like in the summertime, I have my kids 50% of the time. So they're with me for a full week and then they're a week with their mom. And then a week with me and then a week with their mom. And as a parent, you still want to spend time with your kids. So this is what I did with my kids in the summertime. And I've done this for years now. They like it now. I wake up in the morning, extra early, make them breakfast, do what I need to do. And then I tell them, I said, listen, what do you guys want to do today? Tell me what they want to do. I want to watch a movie with you, or I want to go and play basketball with you, or I want to go, sometimes my daughter wants to go to Claire's to go shopping. Sometimes my son wants to go to Sky Zone, to a trampoline park. Like, what do you want to do? And then I would tell them, I said, listen, I don't know what time of the day we're going to do this, but I promise you, we're going to get this done today. I go, here's what my calendar looks like. I got 10 meetings. They're not all going to keep. They never do. They never do, guys. I promise you, 18 years in this business, your appointments never always keep. Something's going to cancel. When that window cancels, I would tell my kids, be ready. We're going to go do something then. Just be ready. We don't live a normal life. We don't live a 9-to-5 life. We don't. I'm not an employee, guys, and you understand that. I don't work 9 to 5 and then I clock out in the evening. Sometimes I work more at night than I do during the day. 90% of the time, I work more at night than I do during the day. So in the summertime, I would tell them, let's get up, get dressed, have breakfast, be dressed, be ready. I said, when I get these cancellations, boom, we're going to go right then and there. And no lie, guys, I spent more time with my kids last summer than I ever did. I didn't put them in an after school. I didn't put them in a camp. I didn't put them in a summer program. Nothing. They were here at the house with me. And they loved knowing that they didn't know when it was going to happen, but it was going to happen. I took them bowling sometimes. I took them to the movie theater sometimes. I took them to, and sometimes it was only an hour and a half that we had. Sometimes it was a 3-hour window that we had. When we had 3 hours, that was perfect. We took advantage of it. When we only had an hour and a half, maybe we start a movie and we go halfway through it and then get some ice cream, whatever. But I made sure that I did stuff during the open gaps. That way I was still focused on my business without compromising my kids. Some of y'all sometimes, oh, I'm working all day. And I'm like, well, what'd you do? Oh, I was on social media. What were you doing on social media? Prospecting. Okay, cool. How many prospects did you send? 10. So really what you're telling me is you were doing this during social media. You were just watching people's feeds, or replying to your email. Meanwhile, your kids are there in the corner down to spend some time with you, but you're not doing anything to generate income. I became intentional, became very intentional. I'm gonna do it again this summer with my kids too. Hey, what do you guys want to do today? I want to do this. I want to do. Sometimes I would tell them, give me the stuff you want to do for the whole week. And I'd be like, okay, look, on this day, we're going to knock this out. On this day, we're going to knock this out. On this day, we're going to knock this out. If there was something that had to be at a scheduled time, I blocked it off on my calendar. If you look at my calendar right now, I have my church time blocked off. I have my gym time blocked off. I have it all blocked off because guess what? You guys all have access to my calendar. So if I don't block off things that I need to do, it can't happen. I mean, everything was just scheduled. So Cedric, hopefully that helps you out. From a day-to-day activity, I'll tell you, I was a, what I call 5-5-50, means $50 a day, 5 appointments scheduled, 5 referrals a day. It was a 5-5-50 formula that I ran every day. I want 5 appointments scheduled on my calendar, minimum, because if I have 5 appointments scheduled on my calendar, I statistically kept 2 to 3 every time. Every time. 5 appointments scheduled. I want 5 referrals a day. And I want 50 dials a day. 5 referrals a day, 6 days a week is 30 referrals a week. It's 120 referrals a month. I'll make $250,000. I'll guarantee you'll make $250,000 if you get 120 referrals every single month. Every single month. Every single month. Religiously. I just make sure I get 5 a day, 5 a day, 5 a day, 5 a day, 5 a day. Make sense? Anybody got any questions?
So Tony, maybe you can help me out because I'm still trying to find balance with doing licensing and contracting and also running my business. So for licensing and contracting, I have to be available the hours that UMS is available. And so how would you break down, because I know you said like 8:30 to 10 you do dials, but from 8:30 to 10, I'm focusing on licensing and contracting. So what would you recommend for me?
So in all reality, and I'm going to say this to you because I know you as a close friend and I know what's going on in your dynamic. I think a lot more of your issue has to do with the personal side than the UMS side. You're dealing with licensing, and this is why I say this. And you're hearing it directly from me. Sure, there's the occasional time where it's like, hey, we need to get this in right away. It's just a quick phone call, boom, right? But the reality is you could probably do licensing at night for the next day, the next morning. You could do it at night, submit everything in for the next morning. As long as the emails that you're setting up are already, I mean, we have template emails for licensing. So if you're just making sure at nighttime you're processing just because UMS isn't open at night doesn't mean you can't process it. And then send it to them so that the next morning you know that they're doing it. You know that they're doing it. If you need to, the same way, like prepping for your day. If there's 4 or 5 agents you need to check on, put those people on your list. And it takes nothing more than a 10-minute phone call to Trish. Hey, Trish, this one, can you tell me where they're at? Boom, 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 boom. So I'm not here to tell you that you're not going to have to put hours into licensing because that's the part, that's what you do for us from a back office standpoint. But I would shift it to doing it at nighttime versus during the daytime. I would 100% shift it to that.
Okay, because I was kind of doing it the opposite. I was focusing on licensing during the day and then trying to do my business at night. And I was running into problems. And again, on the personal side of things thrown in there also, it was just kind of making me feel like, oh my God. So, okay.
The tough conversation I have to have with you is that you need to start putting some massive boundaries on your personal side. And it's the hard part to do because similar to you and me, you've always been the person that puts out the fires in the family. Mm-hmm. And here's the reality. You're going to have to let some of those fires burn and let some people figure it out. Because you're not going to get yourself, your family, your daughter to the level where you want to be unless you distance yourself from that type of, fire outputting activity and focus on building something that's sustainable. You know, someone told me a long time ago that if you have a house full of bricks and in your backyard you have a pile full of bricks, it's okay to give the pile of bricks to somebody who needs it. It's not okay to take bricks out of your own house to build somebody else's house. So when you have the extra bricks to give, you give. But if you don't have the extra bricks to give, you can't give it, because eventually what's going to happen is you took care of their house and you're homeless. So right now you got to focus on building your brick. You got to focus on building your house, and you got to make it passive enough so that it eventually sustains the house and puts a couple extra bricks in your backyard to give to others. You have to. And if it means you need to kind of cast them aside for the time being, it's almost like, hey, I'm going to go through this wall. I know you're not going to go through it, but I'm going through it for you. When I built that life that we want, I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring you along with me. But for right now, you're going to have to stay there for a little bit. And if it means you don't like me, I'm sorry, but it means you don't like me. That's okay. But you need to, and it's a hard thing to do, I get it, but you need to put some boundaries. You need to. Otherwise, there's only 24 hours in a day. And you of all people, you're trying to juggle being a single mom, being a business owner, and handling the administrative side. Let's be honest, Jen. If you take off on the business side, you won't do the administrative side. The only reason you're doing admin for me is because your business hasn't taken off. That's the truth. The moment your business takes off, my conversation with you is, hey, Jen, we need to find somebody else to replace you, because that's going to make you more money than anything I'm ever paying you on an admin side. And I'm being honest about it. It's just the truth. So the only reason why you're still having to juggle everything is because your business hasn't taken off yet. And the reason your business hasn't taken off yet is because you're putting in too much time on the personal side. And let's also be honest as well too about this. A lot of the personal issues would be solved if you had the bank account to solve it. Don't you agree? A lot of the personal things that you're having to stop to take care of would be 100% taken care of if you had the bank account to solve it. So what does that mean? You got to build the business. You got to build the business. You got to build the business. I'm dying for you one day to tell me, hey, Tony, I can't do licensing for you anymore because I'm making way too many moves on the business side. Freaking congratulations. Hell yes, please. Let me find somebody else.
Okay, get ready.
That's all I want. But you got to be willing to tell your family, hey, I'm going through this wall for a little while. I have no bricks to offer you, but I'm going through this wall to build a fortress that one day will allow me to put a lot of bricks in your hands.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions? Marquita, talk to me.
Yes, on your present on that sheet, it says that door knocking is considered an actual appointment. Like, I'm not opposed to door knocking because of where I live. And I didn't know if that would actually count as an appointment, even though it's my first time knocking on a neighbor door or in a neighborhood that I know of. So how do you?
So, well, there's 3 sections of door knocking. There's the active door knocking, which is kind of like making a dial. That's like the equivalent of making a dial.
Okay.
Person opening the door is the equivalent of somebody answering the phone. And then a last minute meeting is an actual meeting. It's an actual meeting. If they let you in the door and they want to talk insurance, you're having an actual meeting.
Okay.
That's how you want to kind of track it, because if you knock on 10 doors and one person lets you in the door, that's like 10 dials. One person kept an appointment.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So anybody else have any other questions?
Tony, I guess it's Cedric. So my question, I'm looking at this entire thing, and and most of it is built on what I'm going to do to build myself. So I do, as a VP, I do have a team, and I have a lot. 100% are all new individuals, and I can squeeze them. I can get them into these numbers. What I would wanted to ask for myself, as you mentor me, how can I squeeze them into this type? Where do I put them in here? Because I need to get my dials in. I need to do my social media. I need to do everything else. And for a part-timer, as a part-timer, to be realistic, I want to do something the opposite. And what I want to do is, I don't want to get to the end of the day when I know that they may be at their end, and saving a little bit of energy and burn them out. But I got to have a meeting with them and get them the information outside of training.
Are you talking about wanting to have this type of meeting with your team right now?
Well, basically trying to mentor them throughout the day. You know, where do I fit them in? Because I already know that I
So,
have to do late nights.
so here's the reality. You have the capacity to juggle multiple areas of this business. A new agent doesn't. They're still trying to figure out what the heck they're doing. So what I would do is you set a goal, and there's a lot of activity that has to happen in order to reach that goal. For example, one of the things that I do with all brand new agents is I tell them, listen, I want to have an appointments commitment. What's your goal? How many physical meetings are we going to have? It's not a dials activity. It's not a dial goal. It's not an appointment schedule goal. It's how many actual meetings you want to have. And I correlate that to revenue. If you can have 20 meetings, 20 actual meetings where we have a full fact finder with the client within this next 30 days, I can actually give you a commitment that you'll make 10K, because that's a real number. So now their obsession is what? 20 meetings, 20 meetings, 20 meetings. That's all they're focusing on. One number, one number. I did the same thing with Cinnamon. I did the same thing with Katrina. I did the same thing with Alvin when he first came on board. I did the exact same thing with Kelly. I did the same thing with oh my God, who's another one? I did the same thing with Bernard. I did the same thing with one other. I can't think of it. And here's what's crazy. Every single one of them turned in over 20,000. Every single one of them turned in over 20,000. So you can't handhold your agents. You got to give them a goal. And this is why I say, I'll meet you at the 50-yard line if you'll meet me the other half. I mean, look, with Katrina, with Cinnamon right now, we've turned in, I don't know, 6,000, something like 7,000 in the last week, right? But guess what? I didn't make a single phone call. I asked them, do you have a warm market? Do you have a cold market? No, I have a warm market. Okay, great. Do you know how to call those people? Yeah, I know how to do it. Okay, good. Give me a goal. I'm going to put 10 appointments on the books this week. Okay. Now all I'm doing is just holding them to that commitment, They know how to schedule appointments on the calendar. They know how to be on the meeting and available. And as a result, we open up cases, we turn in business. And so you've got to be able to give them homework and say to them, if you do your homework, I'll be here to review the homework with you. Otherwise, you can't. Listen, the dials is the hardest part that people need to realize that agents need to do on their own, because it's the most activity you're going to do. And if I got to pick up the phone and call, I don't have time to host meetings. I don't have time to cases. I don't have time to run the company. So you got to kind of look at it the same way. You got to say to them, hey, here's a script. Think about it from a dial standpoint. Someone says to me, I have a warm market. Have them watch the video. I put together a video on how to make phone calls to your warm market. Have them watch it and then have them set a goal. You know who you lock onto? The people who actually care about keeping those commitments and keeping those goals. Those are the ones you lock onto. And if they're not willing to meet you at the 50-yard line, instead of putting effort to show up at the 50-yard line, put in effort to recruit somebody else that will meet you at the 50-yard line. Because if I got to put energy in, I'm either going to build your organization or I'm going to go wide. I'm going to build your organization and take your organization deep, or I'm going to go wide and find somebody that wants to go deep. But if you're telling me that I got to pick up your call list and make your calls, nah, it ain't going to happen. I'm going to call my own. Because here's another big reality. If I call my own, I'm not splitting business. When I call my own, it's 100% me. When I'm working with yours, we're splitting it. So it's like, wait a minute, if I'm working with you at half the commission, at the split percentage, it's because I'm trying to help you grow. But if you're not showing up, I'm just going to go wide and I'll rent my own business. That's the scariest part about being a producer that can make 6 figures on his own pen. You don't need an agency to make money. You choose to have an agency because you want them to make money. You want to give them what you can offer. But at any given moment, if you're not going to show up for your business, why am I going to show up to your business? I'm just going to go wide. I put 3 in the system today, last 3 days, not last 36 hours. I put 3 in the system today. 3. I put 1 in, last week I put 1 in Katrina's organization because quite frankly, the relationship that the similarities between their personalities is so in kind. They both come from the same organization. They both speak the same language. I'm like, you know what? I could develop her by working Katrina's organization at the same time. So I did that, but I'm always going wide. That's the way you got to lead them. You go wide and you give them the opportunity to show up at the 50-yard line. Some will and some won't. Oh, well, who's next? Make sense? Look, and look, I'll give you, without giving the name, you guys saw today on the group chat, there was somebody that was on, and then I removed that person. You saw that from ClientBuilder. Why? You know what their response to me was on a one-on-one text message? I'm not ready for it. The pressure's way too much. I can't right now. I got way too many things that I'm dealing with. And because of that, I just can't. And I'm not throwing shade on her, but I'm not going to slow myself down to somebody else's pace. If you ain't ready, get at me when you are ready. But I'm not going to slow my business down. I'm not going to slow the progress that I'm making. I'm not going to slow down my family's income just because you ain't ready to go at my pace. So I'll find somebody else to work with you. But in the meantime, I'm going to go at my pace. You got to keep up. And there's nothing wrong with that, Cedric. Honestly, I think that's the biggest problem in this industry sometimes is that people feel this entitlement, right? You recruited me, you deserve. No, listen, I deserve to give you an opportunity and an example. I'm going to show you an example by going wide. I'm going to show you an example by training and developing. I'm going to show you an example by gaining clients. And I presented you the opportunity. The question is, are you ready to run? Because I'm not going to slow myself down for your excuses. I'm not going to slow myself down for your validation as to why you should slow yourself down. There's no way. And nobody here should slow themselves down to my pace. If you feel you can go twice as fast, go for it. I'm not the best, but I'm not going to slow myself down for nobody's reasons. So you give them the example, you give them the opportunity to show up at the 50-yard line. If they do, you work with them. If they don't, you go wide.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, but I'm excited. Hey, when you put your numbers in each week, is that a shared Google Doc? So we just go in there and just go ahead and put them on there for the weekly numbers?
Yeah, just go in there, put it on there. Everybody has access to it.
Every Monday. So we should have it in by Sunday or something?
I would say Sunday at night before the night ends. Yeah, I have it in there. Because occasionally at nighttime on Sundays, I'll take a look at it to prep for the next day, or I'll look at it early in the morning before the meeting starts.
Perfect.
I intentionally did it at 2 o'clock to make sure that I can account for the West Coast
Thank you.
time zone difference. Okay, but I'll close it with this, guys. If there's no more questions, this is genuinely to help you grow, but it is going to be a level of discomfort. It's expected. If you can't handle the pressure, then just remove yourself from it. I'm okay with that. Literally, just remove yourself from it, because I can't slow everybody else down because you're not wanting to keep up to the pace. So have your stuff on time. Plan your calendar accordingly. Make sure you block off your time. Don't give me an excuse. Oh, I'm driving because I got a ... and ... No, sorry. Like with 1 hour and a half a week, you can't block off and make yourself available. Like I can't compromise other people's time for it. And yes, this is one of those types of scenarios where if you're invited to this, it's because you're expected to have results. If you're not growing, it's because you're not taking the advice. And if you're not taking the advice, then why be on the call to begin with?
Right.
But you have to be able to get results. That's what entrepreneurship is about. That's why I say there's no government program that says, oh, poor entrepreneur, let's give you a little bit of money because you're going through a hard time. It doesn't exist. That's called welfare. That's not employment. That's not entrepreneurship. Cool. All right, guys.
Pressure creates diamonds.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to the mentorship and I appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Mhm.
Have a good day. Bye.